Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. I'm Gina K, and I'd like to welcome you to the first video in my quick and easy holiday series. Today's card is going to be a snowman card, and this is a card that I posted out there on social media this week, and a lot of people requested a video on it, so I thought I'd kick off the series with this cute little snowman project featuring the Warm Winter Wishes card kit. The stamp sets that I'm going to use are the Winter Hugs stamp set, and I'm also going to use the Folk Art Snowflake stamp set, and both of these come in the Warm Winter Wishes card kit. I'm going to start by stamping the snowman using some Gina K Designs black onyx ink. This is our regular dye ink, and it works great with Copic markers. You can also use our amalgam ink if you want to use any coloring medium. Now I'm going to make a small template using the coordinating die, and I have a piece of soft stone cardstock just so that I'm using a different color than the white cardstock that I'm actually going to be cutting. And once I have this template done, this is going to allow me to easily see where the die is going to cut my image. Sometimes these dies shift around a little bit when you're running them through the die cutting machine, just like any die, and this allows me to kind of lock it in place and make sure that it doesn't shift. So you can see I'm laying that template right on top of the snowman, and then I'm going to secure both pieces using a little bit of purple tape. This is the 1/2-inch purple tape, and it doesn't tear the cardstock at all. And I'm just going to tape those down into place, those sides. Now I'm going to take the die and I'm going to drop it into that hole. And when I feel it snap, then I know it's in place, and I can tape that down with a little bit of purple tape as well. Then I know I'm going to get perfectly even borders when I run this through the machine. This only takes a couple extra seconds, and once you have that template cut, you can use it over and over again. But it always assures you that your dies are going to cut with the image perfectly in the center. So now I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to pop that die cut piece out of that white cardstock, and you can see I've got a nice even white border around the entire image. Next, I'm going to cut an oval, and I'm going to be using the double-stitched ovals by Gina K Designs. I'm going to run that through the die cutting machine, and I'm using an 80-pound white cardstock. This is our layering white cardstock, and it's great for creating lots of layers on the front of your card without adding a lot of extra weight to the front. So you can see that has that nice double-stitched edge. Now here I have a piece of black cardstock, and I'm going to cut one of our single-stitched ovals out of that. The single-stitched ovals and the double-stitched ovals create a beautiful little stitched border, and depending on whether you want 2 rows of stitches or 1, you can use these for the same applications. But when you layer them together, it creates a perfect little shadow layer. Now this piece of black cardstock I'm not going to throw away. This is actually going to be a border piece for a white piece of cardstock that's going to hold my focal image. And all I did was make sure that my black piece was cut to the size that I needed it to be, and they layer perfectly together. No sense in wasting that, right? So now I'm going to color this snowman, and I'm going to start with Copic marker BG45. And I'm just going to color these parts of the hat and the scarf with a solid layer of this color. I'm not going to worry about doing any shading at all, because I'm going to add some texture afterwards. So I'm going to continue to color. Here I'm coloring his scarf, just making sure that I've got a nice even coat of that BG45 all over the scarf and the hat. And again, if you want to add a little bit of shading, you certainly can, but you really don't have to because of the texture that we're going to add in just another minute. So just a little bit more coloring here. And once that's done, I'm going to get my Copic marker blending marker, the 0 marker. Now my Copic marker that's the colorless blender is the original style Copic marker, so it's the square barrel, but you can also do this with a sketch marker or a chow marker. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just kind of color little tiny dots going across the scarf. And I'm going to go back over them a second and even a third time. Each time I go over them, they're going to get lighter and lighter, and it's going to create a really neat texture. Now this row, I'm kind of coloring in between where the top row ones were, so they look a little bit staggered. And again, I'm doing a second layer on them, and I'm going back over a few of them that I felt just weren't light enough. You can see what that's starting to look like. Now for this part of the scarf, I'm just doing 4 dots on each one, and I'm going over them a second time. And I'm going to do that on this part of the scarf as well. And by going over them a second time, it does lighten the dots up. So depending on how light you want them, you can go over them 2 or 3 times. Now I'm going to add dots to the hat to match the scarf. And just a few dots, 3 across one row, then 2, and then 1. Kind of creating a triangle pattern to match the pattern of the hat. And then I'm going back over them again just to make sure that they're light enough. And you can see how cute that little pattern looks, and it doesn't take any coloring skill at all to do this. Just color it with straight Copic marker and then add your texture with the colorless blender pen. Now I'm going to use a yellow orange. This is YR65, and I'm going to color in his little carrot nose. Then I'm going to add a couple little circles on the cheeks using RV10. So a little circle on each cheek, and then I'm going to go over it a second time just to brighten it up a little bit. And then I'm going to add just a few simple shadows. And I'm going to do this with C1. This is a cool gray. I'm just going to add a little line underneath the hat, down the side of his face, underneath the scarf, and then down that same side of his body. So not any intricate shading, just a little bit of shading there, just to make it look a little bit more dimensional. So that's him all colored, and now I'm going to add a little bit of glitter to his hat. I'm going to use the Gina K Designs Connect glue because I can get a very thin little line of glue out of this. And if any glue extends past the black lines, you can always just take your nail or take some sort of poker tool and just push the glue back. And I'm going to put some on the little ball on top of his hat. The glitter that I'm using is the Gina K Designs Prismatic Glitter, and this color is called Frozen. It's one of my favorite glitter colors for creating frost on snow hills and also anything to do with Christmas cards, angel wings, snowman hats, anything like that. I just love this color. It's got just a little hint of blue in it when you turn it into the light. So my snowman is done and ready to be attached to the card. Now I'm going to create some snow hills. So I have a piece of Gina K Designs 80-pound white cardstock, and I'm just cutting some hills into it using a pair of scissors. Now you can also use a Post-it note for this. You can use masking paper if you feel like it will be more secure. But I'm just using this lightweight cardstock, and I'm going to kind of hold it down into place with my hand. The color that I'm using is Gina K Designs Ocean Mist, and this is a very soft aqua color. So I'm going to use a piece of scrap paper just to rub off a little bit of the color so I don't get a big blob of it. And then I'm going to start on that mask that I created. And I'm just going to let the bristles kind of flow over the edge onto the white oval. So most of my color is actually going on that little mask that I created. And you can see that that creates a very soft little mountain. Now I'm going to shift that around into a different direction, and you can flip it over or you can just change the angle. So I'm going to change the angle there, and again I'm going to use the brush the same way. Most of the brushing is done on the mask, just letting the bristles kind of rub over the edge. And I'm going to continue to do that all the way down this oval to create all of these pretty little snowy hills, and that will be the backdrop for my snowman. And you can see how this is looking. So I'm kind of going back and forth between those two angles and just creating a really nice soft blend. Now if you don't want to do blue, also soft gray works beautifully. And I've done them in soft gray, and I think the sample that I posted on social media, I had used just a little bit of soft stone. But I kind of am liking the way the ocean mist looks. Now I did have a little bit of green on this brush that was left over from another project, so as I started working my way down, my snow hills got a little bit more green and a little bit less blue, but that's okay. It created a really pretty blend. And now I'm just kind of filling in the bottom and the top so that they're not too stark white. So now that snow hill is ready for some snowflakes. So I'm going to use the soft stone ink, and I'm going to use 3 different snowflakes from the Folk Art Snowflake stamp set. I'm going to stamp them coming in from the side so they don't look like they're all in the center of the oval. So you can see each snowflake here is different and creates a little bit of a different look. And my final snowflake will go onto the right side. Then I'm going to use a little bit of marker to color in some of the details of the snowflake. And the marker I'm using is B00. And I'm just coloring in tiny little details of these snowflakes. And you can see that just makes the snowflakes pop a little bit more. And I'm going to continue to color these little areas of the snowflakes until all of the little open spots are filled in. And the snowflakes, each one is different, so it has different little openings. But that B00 really adds a little bit to the whole snowflake look. So now it's time to add a greeting onto this oval. But first, I'm going to adhere it to the black single-stitched oval, and you can see how nicely they layer together. The black creates that tiny little shadow layer. Now I am going to add a little bit of texture to my white piece of cardstock that's going to be the background. And of course I grabbed my trusty old Cuttlebug Swiss dot folder. I think it's such a pretty one, and the dots of the folder play really nicely against the dots in the hat and the scarf. So I'm going to adhere those 2 panels together, and then that whole panel is going to go onto a white note card. And you can make this white note card a side fold or a tent fold. Mine is a side fold, and I'm going to adhere that onto that note card. So now I have my oval ready for a greeting, and I'm just going to place the snowman on there where I want it to make sure that I have room for the greeting. I'm going to use some black onyx ink, and I'm going to stamp the greeting onto the left side of the oval, just a little bit above where I'm going to be placing my snowman. And when I stamp that, I'm going to just hold it there for a second to make sure all of that ink transfers. Now, if you're unsure, you can always see for that. So now this oval panel, this oval is going to go onto my card base. And I'm going to just tape that right onto the card base. Then I'm going to use some foam squares to adhere the snowman, so he's going to be popped up a little bit. I'm going to use the Gina K Designs and ThermoWeb black foam squares, but you can use the white ones too. I just happen to have quite a few black ones in my collection, and they don't show through on the other side of the snowman, so it really doesn't matter which color you use. I like to use the black ones mostly when I'm using black cardstock so they blend in, but this will do the trick. So I'm going to pop him into place, and then I'm going to add some sequins. Now to grab these sequins, I'm going to use the Marvy Jewel Picker. I really love this tool, and my favorite side to use is the small side. It picks the sequins up really easily, and you can lay them onto whatever you're using to hold them onto your card quickly and easily. I'm using some of the Gina K Designs Connect glue, and I'm just putting a little bead where I want the sequin, and then I'm going to pick the sequin up, drop it onto the bead of glue, and then using my finger, that helps the sequin let go of the jewel picker. And when it comes to adding sequins, I like to just randomly scatter them, maybe in kind of a Z pattern or an S pattern down the front of the card. And I like to use either 3 or 5 or 7. So now I have my sequins adding some sparkle and the glitter adding sparkle and shine, and that is my finished card project. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you'll give this card project a try. Stay tuned for more videos in my holiday series, and here are another couple of videos I think you might enjoy. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.